King and Rook versus King is one of the most important endgames in chess. Unlike the King and Queen, this one is trickier, but with the right technique, you will deliver checkmate every time. So today, I will show you the complete method. The Rook is not as powerful as the Queen alone. It cannot cut the board from a single square the same way as the King does or the Queen does. It moves in straight line, ranks and files only. There is no diagonals, unlike the Queen. So this means you need your King to actively help the Rook. Unlike the Queen endgame, where the Queen can do most of the work. In this endgame, your King must march forward and help corner the enemy King. The good news, if you know this technique, the endgame is always won. It never needs to be drawn. The technique is called the Lawnmower Method. So what exactly is the Lawnmower Method? The Lawnmower Method works like this. The Rook cuts off the enemy King rank by rank. It's like a staircase or steps. Just like a lawnmower going up and down a lawn. Here are the steps. The first step, cut off the enemy King on its current rank. Move the Rook to cut off the King. If the King is on the 6th rank, you put your Rook on the 5th rank. The King cannot cross this rank. So let's pay a little attention to what we see on the board here. We see our King on the 6th rank, the Black King on the 6th rank, and it is White's turn to play. So you want to play your Rook to the 5th rank immediately. Now, like a lawnmower, this particular rank has been cut off by the Rook and prevents the Black King from moving upward. So this is the first step you need to take whenever you are using the Lawnmower Method in a Rook and King versus King endgame. So when you cut it off, you prevent the Black King from moving forward. Now you need to be careful. Whenever you want to cut off, just like I said, that the King, when it is on the 6th square, you put your own right Rook on h5 or on the 5th square. But a situation where the Black King is on g6 square, it is impossible for you to play your Rook to h5 without getting captured. So in this situation, you don't want to lose your Rook because it can get captured by the King when it is very close or too close to the King. So you want to place it a little rank far away from the 6th rank. Instead of playing it to the 5th rank, you play it to the 4th rank instead. Now you are still cutting it off, just that you are not putting it on the 5th rank where it can get captured by the King that is on g6 or on the 6th rank. So you have to be careful whenever you are using the Lawnmower Method. When you see that the Black King is very far away from the Rook, then you can play it to h5 or to the 5th rank in order for it to cut off the particular rank. Now, the next step, bring your King closer to your opponent's King. After the first step, which is to cut off the particular rank where your opponent's King is, now you need the support of your own King. So you move it closer to your opponent's King. So the best move here is for Black King to be moving closer towards the White King and White Rook in order to capture it. So as they move, you also move your King closer, not to the Rook, but to your opponent's King. So when you move closer, you support the Rook, not by getting closer to it to protect it, but by supporting it and preventing the squares where the Black King can go to when you need to check again and reduce the rank, just like the Lawnmower Method we mentioned. The third step, when your opponent moves, you move closer. What you are trying to achieve is your opponent's next move must make sure that both Kings are on the same file. Both kings are on the same file before you do the next step. The next step is to still move your king higher by checking your opponent's king and making sure that the king still moves backward, reducing the rank again, the lawnmower method. So when the king keeps moving, then you keep playing your king to the same file until you ensure that the next move where the king is about to capture, what do? You move your rook away, far away on that same rank to the other end of the board. Now, the next move by black shows that it is black's turn to play and they are now on the same file. Even if they decide to move to the other side and then you move closer to the king, their next move shows that they are now on the same file. The two kings are now on the same file. Now it is time for you to play your rook. With this your rook, now it is impossible for your opponent king to move out of this rank, and you have hereby moved them and reduced their ranks again. So when they move, your next move is still continue. Now the step 4, this is the step 4. You need to continue the step all over again. Bring your king closer to your opponent's king and try to maintain the same opposition on that same file. So when they move away, you move closer to them. You don't want to cross paths, you don't want to be too close to them or prevent them, prevent your rook from controlling that rank. So when they move away, you move closer. When they move away, you move closer. And when they get too close to your rook and about to capture, you move your rook to the other hand. And then afterwards, when they move away, you move closer. And then when they move back, now it's white's turn to play, and now we have opposition. They are now on the same file. You still move your rook again to check your king, the opponent's king. They are not able to capture, so they move away. And now what do? You move your king closer. So this is how you keep doing it. This is how you keep going about the steps until you drive your opponent's king to the edge of the board and to the corner. So you keep repeating these steps: cut off the ranks, advance your king towards your opponent king, cut off the rank higher again until the enemy king is forced to the back rank, then push to the corner of the board. Then the final step is for you to checkmate. That is the final step. So after this, ensure that before you play your final move, rook checkmate, the next move of your opponent is playing to the same file and an opposition between your two kings. Now it's white's turn to it's black's turn to play. When they move like this, instead of moving with them and then still continue the whole opposition trying to find the next move, just move your rook a little bit, maybe just a square or two squares, not too close to the two kings. You don't want to be close to the two kings. Let them do their thing. What you want them to do is in the next move, it's black's turn to play, and when they play, they are now on the same file with your own king, and then you can deliver a beautiful checkmate using the lawnmower method. Now, the rook on g8 has delivered a beautiful checkmate to the black king on b8, and the king does not have anywhere to go because your own king is also occupying is also controlling the normal squares that will make it possible for the king to escape. So this is a beautiful checkmate using the lawnmower method in a rook and king versus king endgame. Right? So this analysis, I'm just going to use another method to show us how you can use the lawnmower method to checkmate. Now, if you think you can try this, you can pause the video and try working on this in order for you to checkmate. This is exactly what I'm telling you about when you want to move your rook in order to cut and then cut the number of ranks for your opponent king. You know this king is on the 8th rank. Now you cannot put the rook on the 7th rank again, because putting the rook on the 7th rank allows the king to get the rook captured, and this is a draw. This is like a stalemate, and a draw for the game. So you don't want to do this. Now you know that getting to the seventh rank when the opponent king is on the eighth rank is not really possible. So you play to the sixth rank instead. Now, black will try as much as possible to move closer to the rook to get it captured. This is where you need to move your rook as far away as possible in the next move. Now you don't want to bother on your king too much. When you see that the rook, your white rook, is far away from the opponent king as far as possible, then you can start advancing your king to get it closer, not to your own rook, but to your opponent's king. For every safety you need for the rook is when the king gets too close to it and then you move it as far away on that same rank as possible from the black king. So let's try it the same way just like we have done. Now you are far away, black is trying as much as possible. They know they can't cross this sixth rank, but so they are trying as much as possible to get close to the rook and get and capture it. They are still far, there are still some squares away, so you can bring your king closer. When it gets closer, you bring your king closer. Now they are too close. In their next move, they are ready to capture the rook. So you don't want to move it away from this rank, and you don't want to play your king in the next move so you don't get captured and you end up having a drawn game. So you move your rook. What do you do again? You move it as far away as far as possible from the king, right? And in their next move, they are still trying to come again to continue, trying to find a way to capture. And then what do you do now? You bring your king closer. When they play this, you bring your king closer, right? So now they would want to avoid the opposition. They will want to avoid having their king on the same file because they know the next move will be to reduce their rank again. So instead of coming to this place where you now have it on the same file and then you play your rook, they are going to move far away to c7, and then you do the same thing. You keep moving towards them. Do not cross over the rank. Do not cross and be on the same rank with your rook. Is going to allow your opponent to deflect. The king is going to deflect the rook power on that rank, and then the king can easily escape out of that rank. So you just want to maintain that same rank you are to allow the opposition. There must be that square in between your opponent king and your king. So when they play, they move away, you keep moving closer. When they move away, you keep moving closer. Eventually, they don't have any choice than to play and be on the same file with you, and then you can now play your opposition. You've driven them back to the last rank, and then you can now bring your king closer, and then when they move, you keep moving. So basically, this is how you just keep moving. You keep moving, you keep moving. Now you see they have gotten closer to your rook again. You don't keep moving this time around. You move your rook far away from the opponent king as far as possible. The issue is between the black king and the white king. And then afterwards, they want to move closer. You play this, and they move like this. You play this, and they move like this. Maybe you play a move like this, you run away again, and after this, they play this, and basically you are getting closer to the king and finding a way to checkmate. And when they bring it back, now you are at the edge of the corner of the board. When they bring it back to b8, you deliver a checkmate on h8. So this is the whole process, right, that you need to do in order to checkmate with a king and queen, a king and rook versus king endgame. Just like in the king and queen endgame, stalemate is the danger here. You want to avoid stalemate. If the black king is in the corner and it has no legal moves and is not in check, that is a stalemate, immediate draw. Just like I've shown you, your rook can get captured and it is possible for you to have a stalemate. Now if the king was here and then the rook is already in this square here and the king does not have anywhere to go, then we have what we call a stalemate in that position. So you want to always check before your final rook move, does the cornered king have at least one square to move to when you are reducing the rank? If the answer is no, then you have to give it a square. Then you reposition your rook and then deliver the checkmate properly. So the safest finishing pattern is white king on b6, or the safest finishing pattern is the opposition, white king on b6 and black king on b8. You see that opposition maintained, and then you can drive from this square here down to this place. You don't want to be too close to check where you get captured. You can deliver the checkmate by the rook. Any of these squares where your rook is, you can deliver the checkmate, right? So this is a clean checkmate with no stalemate risk. So what I want you to do now is practice this on leeches under endgame practice, the king and rook versus king endgame. So you practice it until you can checkmate in 20 moves or fewer moves. So tomorrow we look at the back rank checkmate, the sneakiest win in chess. Subscribe and I will see you then.